You are listening to Practical and Woo by Mindset and Manifest. My name is Eden, and I invite you to embark on a journey with me to explore the practical and spiritual edges of the unknown for the purpose of allowing you to embody and empower yourself uniquely as you are and to intentionally create and live a life of freedom and fulfillment. Each week, I'm going to discuss topics such as energetics, reality creation, manifestation, astrology, tarot, and more to help empower you to live beyond perceived limitations and to practically design your life so it feels like absolute magic every step of the way. Let's dive in. Well, hello, brilliant soul. Today, I want to share with you a tale about how we, as creators of our reality, so often trip over the tangled vines of what we give weight to, what we consider important, and how freedom is found when we learn to walk a lighter path. This story carries a subtle reminder that every character, every choice, every turning point is a mirror of our own inner landscape. So let's dive in. In the kingdom of Marassus, nestled in a valley between two mountain ranges, there was a city called Seren. Seren was known for two great bridges that spanned the same wide river. The Bridge of Mirrors, a glittering construction of glass and silver, where merchants and nobles crossed with pomp, polishing their appearances and posturing with grandeur. And the Bridge of Echoes, a modest wooden structure enduring through the years, where passerbys often moved as though they were adorned in invisible crowns, mistaking self-importance for strength. The two bridges became a metaphor in Seren. One represented something known as outer importance, the desire to be seen, approved of, and validated by the world. And the other, inner importance, the inflation of the self, where ego swelled within and demanded that the universe bend at its will. And as you might guess, the river in between carried the cost of both through turbulence. Those who overvalued outer importance found themselves enslaved by the opinions of others. Those who inflated inner importance often tripped over their own hubris, attracting what is known as pendulums and energetic traps that toppled them into despair from the inside out. Our story today follows Ileana, a young glassblower whose craft was delicate and whose hands were scarred from the fire of her furnace. Her dream? To create a work so magnificent it would earn her a place in the Hall of Eminence, which was a grand exhibition hall that was on the Bridge of Mirrors. To her, this recognition meant everything. For years and years, she believed that if she could just be seen in the Hall of Eminence, then she would be considered worthy. Then she would be seen. Then she would matter. As it stood now, while her work and technique was exquisite, it was often overlooked. In competitions, markets, and fairs, she noticed that her breath would tighten every single time someone, whether a judge or patron, passed by her display. She compared herself endlessly to others. Her nights were sleepless and her days became stretched thinner and thinner. One evening, Ileana stood by the river, clutching a vase she had worked on for months. The moonlight glinted across its curved body, and the glass seemed to hold a flame inside. "It's not enough," she whispered. "No matter how much I try, it's never enough." A voice suddenly answered, low and melodic. "Enough for whom?" Startled, she turned to find a man seated by a bank. His robe seemed simple, his hair silver. His gaze, though, was steady, and he introduced himself as Kaelin, a wanderer who crossed both bridges many times. "I know what you seek," he said, "but tell me, do you chase the Hall of Eminence because the work calls through your heart, or because the Bridge of Mirrors whispers promises into your ear. Ileana frowned. Does it matter? Recognition proves the value of my work. Ah, Kaylin smiled softly. Then you hand your power to outer importance. You make the judgment of others more real than your own resonance, and when their gaze wavers, so too will your sense of self. His words stung, for they rang with truth. But Kaylin was not finished. And yet beware of the other bridge. Some inflate themselves so large with inner importance, declaring, I am owed, I am destined, the world must comply. But the universe resists such weight, and then it tips the scales, often harshly. Confused by the notion, yet intrigued, Ileana asked Kaylin to teach her what he meant. He agreed, but only if she would walk both bridges to see for herself. So first they went off to the Bridge of Mirrors. There she watched merchants shouting, nobles boasting, artists flaunting their creations. She felt the pull immediately, the need to posture, to prove, to compete. She even carried her vase, hoping someone important might notice. But each time her eyes darted to see who was watching, her hands trembled. She stumbled, and she dropped her vase, causing it to shatter in shards all around her. Her work had been marred and forever changed by the mistake she condemned herself for. Shame burned in her chest. Kaylin then led Ileana to the Bridge of Echoes. Here the crowd seemed quieter, but the air was thick with a sense of self-importance. Travelers strutted as though the world revolved around them. Some muttered affirmations of grandeur under their breath. Others walked with noses so high they could barely see the path beneath their feet. This, Kaylin said softly, is inner importance. It may look like confidence, but feel the weight of it. Everyone here is heavy with their own significance. They do not notice the river, or the sky, or even the ground they tread upon. They are so consumed with their own image of being chosen, being destined, that they create resistance all around them. Ileana felt another pull in her chest, so she straightened her back, lifted her chin, and whispered to herself, Yes, my art is better than theirs. I am meant to be seen. The universe must place me above the rest. But as she walked this way, the shattered vase she had collected and had been carrying in a tattered cloth seemed to be growing heavier and heavier. Her steps faltered, sweat beaded on her forehead. The wood beneath her creaked and groaned as though it could not hold her inflated posture. By the time she reached the middle of the bridge, one of the shards of her vase slipped from the cloth, nearly piercing into her foot and missing it only by a hair. She gasped and looked behind her, noticing that her vase had been falling out, piece by piece, and leaving a trail behind her. Do you see? Kaylin asked gently. When you inflate yourself with inner importance, you demand that reality bend to your will. But reality resists. The weight of your own entitlement drags you down. It is not destiny you attract, but imbalance. An imbalance that results in you losing the truest pieces of yourself. Ileana clutched the rest of her shards, feeling breathless, realizing what her own pride and pressure had nearly cost her. In the weeks that followed, Ileana practiced Kaylin's teachings. When she noticed herself tightening, she asked herself, Am I inflating outer importance? Am I giving my peace away to someone else's gaze? And when she caught herself demanding that she be praised for being the best, she slowed down and she asked herself, Am I inflating inner importance right now? Am I making myself heavy with entitlement? In this practice, Ileana learned to walk with equanimity, to act from joy rather than tension, to create because her hands longed to express her craft, not because a crowd demanded proof. Her work blossomed, freeing her of desperation, and her glass pieces were each unique in their own beauty, began to carry a new meaning. People began to be drawn towards her naturally and effortlessly. Months later, Aeliana was invited to display her work in the Hall of Eminence. But when the day came, she stood at the riverbank and reminded herself that she no longer needed the invitation to know herself as worthy and already whole. And so she declined and chose not to carry her masterpiece across the Bridge of Mirrors. Instead, she rowed herself out by boat on the river with all of her beautiful pieces, allowing sunlight to refract the glass, enticing anyone who dared to look. Something remarkable happened. Travelers paused on the banks, children ran to the shore, friends, wanderers, and dreamers alike climbed into their own boats, drawn by the ease of her presence and the quiet power of her craft. She did not force them to see her work. She simply let it shine, and those who resonated found their way to her, rowing alongside her, meeting her in the flow of the river's embrace. Aeliana had come to understand that true creation does not need to stand on a pedestal or declare itself as supreme. It only needs to exist in its fullness, carried by the current and witnessed by those ready to receive it. Until next time.